Yesterday, Leeds United faced off with Birmingham City in the FA Cup, and whilst it was not the most comfortable of affairs, those are the matches that most of the time we can actually learn a little bit more from. So, what I've done, I've got my trusty notebook, taken a few notes about various aspects of the game, and I've just jotted down a few little lessons that Leeds United could probably learn from that match, and ultimately what sort of direction that's going to put us in for future FA Cup matches, ideally against lower league opposition, but we'll find out in the FA Cup draw tonight. First of all, is stuff around the lineup, and let's be honest, we all knew it was going to be a somewhat rotated side. We're against a championship team, we're currently in the Premier League, and normally that means you rest a few players that you're able to, especially when you've got some clear aspirations in the Premier League, which are to survive. You need your best players fit, you need your best players healthy. That's why I think we saw the likes of Ethan Ampadu and Joe Rodon not starting this game. However, some of those rotations I think did a little bit more harm than they did good. First of all is the Justin coming in at right back thing. I don't mind James Justin, I quite like him as a player, to be completely honest with you, but down the right flank he isn't Jaden Bogle. They are very, very different players, and that's completely fine. That's understandable. They're always going to be different players. But I think Bogle's presence as more of a sort of winger is a lot more beneficial, especially when we had Nonto on that side as well. Nonto likes to cut in sometimes. If you've got Bogle who is just sticking down the wing, you get a little bit more dimension, and I think that is a bigger benefit in that area. But then again, you're rotating, that's fine. Something that I think we should seek to avoid for the entire rest of the season, if we can, though, is the Beal Bornau centre back partnership. That has scared me every single time we've seen it. Bornau as a centre back is a little bit spooky, in my opinion. And you add to that the fact that both are more comfortable in three at the back systems, both relatively rarely play with one another. And when that becomes your just pure centre back pairing, you're going to get mistakes, and that's why I feel we looked incredibly exposed in the first half. There is another reason that I think that we looked fairly exposed in the first half, and that is unfortunately for the guy, because I quite like him, Facundo Bonanotte. Bonanotte didn't really impress in this match. I'm going to bring up the stats from the match, actually, just so I can use some numbers to back up what I sort of eye tested. But the main issue that I saw with Facundo Bonanotte was that he was just muscled out of the game constantly. He seems like he didn't really have anything about him, and he was sort of desperately struggling to have an actual impact in this game. Uh, as you can tell by the various bits of data. Being that accurate passes, 15 out of 19, that's fine enough, that's not a particular issue, but when you get to the dribbling stuff, yeah, his dribbles weren't fantastic. Three unsuccessful dribbles, he didn't really carry the ball too much too effectively. In fact, that was all of his dribbles. All of his attempts at dribbling were unsuccessful. He carried the ball a little bit, but he lost possession 10 times and only played a half of football. Which, you look at that, it's not really going to be good enough. When it comes to the defensive stuff as well, he didn't really feel like he won many duels. Had a quick look there. 8 ground duels, and he won a grand total of 1. Bonanotte is definitely a skillful player. He's definitely someone that has a very high ceiling, and he's definitely someone that you should keep an eye on for future months, weeks, maybe it's a case of years, I don't know. But for a match against Championship Birmingham City, who were always going to make this a little bit of a physical game of football, didn't work out for him at all. And I think going forward we need to pay attention to that, because otherwise we're going to bump into some issues, and they're not issues that we want to see. Something that I did quite like was Lucas Perry in this game. A very, very nice save in the first half. It's the one that's sort of looping up, manages to get a finger on it, and it hits the bar and the post, which was genuinely a really, really nice save. The goal, I don't realistically think he can do anything about. I've seen some people, for some reason, say, well, why didn't he react sooner? Well, that's because it took a deflection that took it away from him. He was ready for the initial shot, comes off James Justin, top corner. Nothing that you can do about that, and did really, really well with the penalties. Ultimately, he will have needed those sort of penalty misses, the save, for example, just for that confidence boost. He's in that position right now where he's like, I made a move. It's not necessarily going to pay off. We need him to be at his best if we want to keep on pushing forward, because you need a full squad of confident, good players. Lucas Perry can be that. It's just a case of getting him in the position where he's confident enough to do so. Darlow is out of contract in the summer. I don't think we'll renew it. So is Cairns. So is Meslier. At the moment, our only keeper for next season is Lucas Perry. So we need him confident, and this match ultimately very much helped that. Calvert-Lewin I thought was very effective when he came on, but there is one forward that I thought was very ineffective when he came on. And that's a shame, because for him, I think this is a little bit of a sort of last chance, last resort game. And that's Joel Piru. Joel Piru, for me, made a lot of errors. So there were a couple of cases where he could have had a shot and he took a little bit too long making that decision. There were a couple of chances where he could have played a through ball. One to Calvert-Lewin, for example, sprinting between the two centre-backs, and just space opens out in front of him. And Piru plays the ball through a couple of seconds late. So Calvert-Lewin is offside. Which, to be honest, if he's not offside, there's a good chance he finishes that. The whistle has clearly distracted him. He's not fully paying attention at that point. But he's made a nice defence-splitting run, and Piru's response is, I'll try a through ball. And it just doesn't happen. And his relatively poor decision-making against championship opposition, which, let's be honest, are the teams that he's done well against in the past, says that isn't necessarily good enough. And a lot of people looked at him in the summer and went, not in the summer, sorry, in the winter, and went, it's probably time to go. Piru himself said, no, actually, it's not time to go. I'm going to see if I can hang at Premier League level for a bit. And then he proceeds to have a little bit of a stinker in the time he's on the pitch in the FA Cup. Not the most promising. I'm not sure he's going to play too much for the rest of the season, but we'll have to find out, I suppose. And then we get to the big elephant in the room, which is FA Cup progression. It's something that we don't really do too often. And let's be honest, the dream matches here are something at home, because we keep getting drawn away, and I'd like to get to a match or two this season. That'd be quite good. But of the teams remaining in the competition now, you've got, I believe, 6 non-league. Well, not non-league, 6 non-Premier League. I phrased that really, really badly. And 8 or 9 Premier League, because the Brentford match is still to go, and it's likely to be 9. So there's a 40% chance that we can end up against a side that isn't in the Premier League, that isn't of our standard, which is ultimately what we could kind of do with a nice, easier opponent, preferably at home, gets into the quarterfinal for the first time in 23 years, and hopefully in the quarterfinal that's nice as well. Wrexham at home would be hilarious, because I can't wait to see Bryn's split loyalties, but we'll find out how that one goes. But yeah, ultimately, a lot to learn. Players that should have made a bit of an impact by coming into the side haven't. A couple of players I think did relatively well. Nonto, I quite liked. Okafor did reasonably well, but then again, Okafor was going to play anyway. Mecha, again, has done incredibly well. I think he's at 7 goals for the season. But we live, we learn, we find out more, and we bring videos to a close. At the end of the day, that's what I think. Let me know what you do in the comments below. Like, subscribe. As you can tell, a little bit brain foggy at the moment. It's 4 in the morning. Sorry about that. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you later. Toodaloo, amigos.